Ghislaine Maxwell, the convicted associate of sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, has denied that his highly discussed client list exists. The US Justice Department has released transcripts and audio recordings.
For years, Meghan Markle has been working overtime to paint herself as the misunderstood heroine, the victim of a cruel monarchy, a feminist warrior silenced by the establishment, the modern-day Diana who had her wings clipped before she could fly. But now? Oh, now that glossy facade she's built so carefully is beginning to crack. And let me tell you, those cracks aren't just small, they're catastrophic. What's spilling out is darker, nastier, and way more humiliating than anything she's ever faced before.
She is serving a 20-year sentence for helping the late financier abuse young girls. During the interview, Ghislaine Maxwell was asked about President Trump, Bill Clinton, and Prince Andrew.
Because here's the bombshell. Prison whispers and confidential attorney briefings tied directly to the Jeffrey Epstein scandal are pointing right at Meghan. Ghislaine Maxwell, yes, the same Ghislaine at the very heart of the Epstein mess, has reportedly linked Meghan straight to Prince Andrew and Virginia Giuffre. And this isn't some vague gossip over cocktails. No, this is detailed. Maxwell's claims allegedly paint a disturbing picture of what Meghan saw, what she knew, and perhaps most damning of all, what she's been desperate to keep buried all these years. And it gets worse. Whispers from her early Hollywood days are resurfacing, suggesting that Meghan's entire rags-to-riches struggling actress origin story might not be so authentic after all. Instead, insiders claim she was propped up, bankrolled, and boosted by wealthy men who funded her lifestyle. Suddenly, the self-made hustler image doesn't look quite so self-made anymore, does it?
That allegations about Prince Andrew were not true, and that this famous photo was fake, and that former President Bill Clinton was never one of Epstein's so-called clients.
Maybe Meghan's Cinderella tale was nothing more than a fabrication, one designed to make her look relatable, while behind the scenes, powerful men ensured she never really struggled the way she claimed. And let's be clear, this isn't just baseless chatter. These whispers are tied directly to the darkest scandal of our age. And right there in the middle of it, Meghan Markle's name. And here comes the first grenade. It's straight from Ghislaine Maxwell herself. Sources close to Maxwell's prison communications claim she named Meghan Markle as part of the social orbit circling Prince Andrew. That's right, Meghan wasn't just brushing shoulders with Hollywood hopefuls back in the day. She was mingling in Andrew's controversial social world.
In any type of massage setting, I never witnessed the president in any inappropriate setting in any way. The president was never inappropriate with anybody. In the times that I was with him, he was a gentleman in all respects.
Now Meghan wasn't just seen at red carpet events exchanging polite hellos. According to Maxwell, Meghan was spotted in Andrew's company at a time when his reputation was already cloaked in scandal, and you can imagine how devastating that is for Meghan's brand. Why? Because this connects her directly to the one royal she has spent her entire career never mentioning, never criticizing, never even acknowledging. Prince Andrew. She's been happy to slam the monarchy for racism, cruelty, and coldness. But Andrew? Complete silence. And now suddenly we see exactly why.
Her actions, this woman has managed to do so much harm to her own brand that nothing anybody else says is going to influence that, because Meghan's done it for her.
And the whispers don't stop there. Attorneys tied to Virginia Giuffre's case are now insisting Meghan wasn't just floating in Andrew's periphery. No, they believe she likely saw enough to know exactly what was going on. Stop and think about that for a second. Meghan has built her brand as the voice of women, the champion of survivors, the global advocate for truth and empowerment. Yet, if these claims are true, she kept quiet when it mattered most. She chose ambition and connections over courage. And honestly, that contradiction is staggering. But hold on, it only gets darker.
Authors of Finding Freedom, Meghan has done so much already to hurt her own success that you can't come out and now say that information coming out of...
Reports even suggest Meghan may have had a loose connection to Virginia Giuffre herself in her early years through overlapping social circles. If that's true, it explains a lot. It explains how Meghan may have known more about Andrew's scandals than she ever let on. And it explains why her silence since then has been deafening. Because if Meghan had even the faintest awareness of Virginia's pain and trauma, then her silence isn't just strategy, it's complicity. And for a woman who built her empire on the idea of speaking truth to power, that's not just ironic, it's dangerous hypocrisy. And now, let's rewind the clock, back before Suits, before the palace, before Meghan was the Duchess of Sussex.
So Ghislaine is saying these things, that there is an actual CV, there are documents talking about Meghan Markle in the early years and her connection to this world.
Meghan has always pushed the image of the struggling actress. You know the story. Hustling from audition to audition, scraping by, barely making rent, just waiting for that one big break. But insiders whisper a different version. They say Meghan was never really struggling. Instead, they point to a pattern of relationships with wealthy men who quietly bankrolled her. We're talking expensive dinners, designer wardrobes, luxury getaways, things that no bit part actress paycheck could ever cover. Those perks didn't come from acting. They came from powerful men who saw Meghan for what she was: ambitious, strategic, and very willing to climb the ladder by any means necessary. And now, with Maxwell's claims added to the mix, those whispers of sugar daddies and benefactors suddenly take on a much darker undertone. And of course, Meghan's defenders are already rushing in, insisting she was never close to Andrew, that she had nothing to do with that world. But let's be real. The evidence tells a different story. Social photographs, overlapping guest lists, mutual friends, they all show that Meghan wasn't just floating on the edges. She was right there, moving inside the very same elite circles dominated by Andrew and his wealthy allies.
It just, where she says that they had relations in a bathroom, first of all, the bath is an old Victorian bath. I'm quite small.
And here's the sting. Meghan built her entire brand on distancing herself from the royals. She positioned herself as morally superior, the outsider who called out their cruelty, the bold truth teller. Yet, her own early history shows she wasn't just in Andrew's orbit. She benefited from it. She learned how to maneuver through it, how to climb because of it. And now she's panicking because those carefully buried years are clawing their way back into the spotlight. She sold the world this tale of being a struggling actress clawing her way up in Hollywood, living paycheck to paycheck, waiting for her shot on Suits. But the holes in that story are gaping. There were years where her lifestyle was far above what she supposedly earned. Private vacations, designer wardrobes, glamorous dinners, none of it matched the income of the Hollywood hopeful waiting tables and auditioning. So, the obvious question, where did the money come from? The whispers say it came from wealthy men, from secret benefactors, from the very same elite social network that tied right back into Andrew's shadowy world. And now, with Maxwell's revelations echoing across headlines, those once dismissed whispers don't look so harmless anymore. What they look like is a carefully hidden arrangement, one Meghan has fought tooth and nail to keep out of public view. And perhaps the most suspicious part of it all, Meghan has spoken out against nearly every other aspect of the monarchy. She's accused them of racism. She's accused them of cruelty. She's painted herself as Diana's heir, silenced by an institution too cold and too outdated to handle her brilliance. But Andrew, not a word, not in interviews, not in documentaries, not even in her big sit-downs where she told her truth. Complete calculated silence. Why? Her PR team, of course, is in full-blown crisis mode. They're scrambling, dismissing every story as conspiracy, threatening outlets with lawsuits, trying desperately to control the narrative. But here's the thing, the harder they push, the more suspicious it looks. Every time Meghan's team screams, "Lie," people just ask, "Then why are you so desperate to shut this down?" And the harder they fight, the more it validates the idea that there is something worth hiding. Because in the court of public opinion, panic doesn't look like innocence, it looks like guilt. And that is devastating for the Meghan Markle brand. And here's the nightmare Meghan never wanted to face. Once the world stops seeing you as a victim and starts seeing you as either a participant or at the very least an enabler, your credibility disintegrates overnight. The entire empire you built on truth and authenticity collapses in seconds. She's painted herself as Diana's heir, the woman who dared to speak up. But the reality emerging is very different. This isn't resilience, it's a mask, and that mask is slipping fast. And let's not forget, Ghislaine Maxwell of all people may be the one ripping it off. Just think about that for a second. The woman at the center of one of the darkest scandals of modern history is now pointing fingers at Meghan Markle. And Meghan, her response has been silence. Not one word about Andrew, not one acknowledgement of the scandals that shook the monarchy. And that silence, it's deafening, it's suspicious. And the longer she stays quiet, the louder the whispers grow. So now the public is asking, did Meghan know more than she ever admitted? Does her silence prove complicity? Or is this just another chapter in a reputation already collapsing under its own contradictions? People are debating it everywhere. On social media, in tabloids, in Hollywood boardrooms. And every theory points back to the same conclusion. Meghan's brand, that carefully engineered image, is finally cracking wide open. Think about it. She can shout about racism. She can rail against palace cruelty. She can claim the Diana mantle. But she cannot escape Andrew's shadow. She cannot erase those overlapping years, those whispers of wealthy backers, those alleged encounters that place her in the very world she pretends to have stood against. And now, the silence that once protected her is starting to condemn her.